So let's hear it for Matt Corey and the Seattle Unity Choir. Yay. I can never wait to see what Matt's going to wear next. He has quite the wardrobe. And just a reminder to stay after church for breakfast. The men are cooking. You can smell the food, can you not? And they're going to be singing Christmas carols as well. So as we know, we only have 7 days left until Christmas. You got all your Christmas shopping done? You all ready for the holiday? I'm actually ready for a change. And next Sunday, our service will be at 10 a.m. As always, Olivia is going to be our lead in the singing. We're going to do lots of carols next week. And this Wednesday night is our first candlelighting service, as well as on Christmas Eve. And Wednesday is the winter solstice. Y'all know what that means, don't you? It's going to start getting light again. Hooray! We have been in this decline of the light and this ascent into the dark. And, you know, it's great because everything has its purpose. And perhaps you have found that you've wanted to cocoon a little more than usual. Anybody? You know, be a little quieter. Diminished activity. Maybe you find that you're eating more. Oh, boy. Perhaps you have found that you have even slept more as we move into the dark. But with the return of the light, we are called to awaken. So today I want to look at the story of Mary and Joseph and the journey to Bethlehem, which is actually a journey to awakening. And there's 3 points that I want us to reflect on as we move through this talk. And the first is, how can you step out of your comfort zone in order to awaken? The second is what is the process of waking up for you? Because life seems to be a process of falling asleep and waking up, not just at night, but in our lives into situations. And the last is, who are your companions along this journey? Because that also is really important. So I want to share with you scripture from chapter 2 of Luke. Joseph went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family of David, in order to register along with Mary, who was engaged to him and who was with child. And while they were there, the days were completed for her to give birth, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in cloths, laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now, do you think that Mary wanted to take this journey? Can you imagine being 9 months pregnant, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what? We are going to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem. It's a 90-mile journey. 90 miles, you're 9 months pregnant, and it's up and downhill. It's not like a straight shot. In those days, people probably walked about 20 miles a day, but being 9 months pregnant, maybe they walked 10 miles a day. So we get that this is kind of an arduous journey. This is not like, you know, you hop in a bus and you're there, you're in a plane, you're there. And most likely, Mary and Joseph would probably have wanted to stay home. And yet, they are called out of their comfort zones, out of their comfortable homes. And as we embark on the spiritual journey, guess what? We too are called out of our comfort zones in order to travel on the journey to awakening. And not only are we called to take the journey, but we're called to be present as we are on this journey in life. Rumi said it this way: the breeze at dawn has secrets for you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. So we hear a couple of levels happening with this poem, and one is obviously meditation, right? That place when we wake up and we're kind of in that alpha state where the two worlds come together, where you are still remembering your dreams, where you're kind of operating from a different level. And this is the same experience we have from meditation, where we begin to meld the two worlds together, where we're able to reflect and to step back. And Rumi said in this poem, ask for what you want. You must ask for what you really want, particularly in this space of prayer, in this space of meditation. Jesus said that when you pray in secret, your Father will reward you, and your Father knows what you need even before you ask. But the deal is, you need to know what you want, whether you ask silently or quietly or out loud. And how can we know that without spending time in reflection and in quiet? So, the other piece of this in waking up, and the question I pose to you this morning is, what are the edges of your comfort zone? So we have the edges of waking up in meditation, but what are the edges of your comfort zone? Have you gotten used to having things the way they are? And do you need to step out of that? And if so, where do you need to venture out to? And what is it that you're afraid to do, but you must do? So let us look to Mary and Joseph and their willingness to step out of the comfort of Nazareth and into Bethlehem. We, in our building project here at Seattle Unity, are stepping outside of our comfort zone and venturing into a new land and a new world that we're, don't know how it's going to look, but it's going to be wonderful. It's that journeying. So this month we've also been reflecting and calling in the inner sage, right? There's Yoda and there's, Deanna Troi and you name it. Our culture is filled with sages, and the sage always seeks the truth to know wisdom, because wisdom is one of the key attributes of that. Now, Monica Ardelt, she's a sociology professor, and she studied how we gain wisdom, and I've shared this about 3 weeks ago. And she came up with a couple of points of how we gain wisdom. And the first is through experience, which is why older people are said to be wiser, because they've had more experience. But age doesn't necessarily mean that you're wise, right? And being young doesn't necessarily mean that you're not wise. The key is to learn from our experiences. So one way to look at it is that life is a school, right? Have you ever thought of it that way? That life is a school, that life is for learning, and that when we draw experiences to us, it's for our soul's growth, that everything is for our learning. Sometimes we are called to take hold, sometimes we're called to let go, sometimes we're called to build structure. So there's different periods of our lives where we're called to do different things. So one is being present to and gaining wisdom from experience. The second is that wise people have a strong support network. In our story, Mary and Joseph had each other. She didn't travel by herself. Joseph didn't travel by himself. They traveled together to the city of peace in order to give birth to the Christ. So companionship, community, friendship is key to helping us to gain wisdom. Now, I really get into all these different studies to see people who have looked at these different things. A man by the name of Robert Waldinger, he actually gave a TED Talk, and the question was, what makes for a good life? What makes for us to live a good life? And there was a questionnaire put to millennials, and 80% of them said that being rich is the biggest goal. 60% said being famous is the goal. So a study was done, believe it or not, that started in 1938. The Harvard study of adult development, it may be the longest study of adults that ever been done. And they studied 2 groups, and they were all men. Now they're moving it up into women, but started out all men. So part of the group were Harvard sophomores. The other group was blue-collar workers from Boston. And they have studied both of these groups for the past 75 years. Many of these 60 of these people are still alive. So they started off with 724 men. And now they didn't just say, okay, fill out a questionnaire and we'll see what makes you happy. No. They asked about their work, their home lives, their health. They took blood samples and CAT scans and you name it. And they've been meeting with these people every 2 years to follow up. Again, it's not just with a questionnaire, but it's talking to them in their homes. It's talking to their wives, to their kids, to really get an idea of who these people are and what has made them happy. What they found, believe it or not, is it isn't money. It isn't jobs. It isn't a big house. What they found was that satisfying and close relationships was what made people happy. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier. So I want to share a quote from him. He said, "The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills." Hear that. Loneliness kills. It turns out that people who are socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected. And the experience of loneliness turns out to be toxic. People who are more isolated than they want to be from others find that they're less happy, their health declines earlier in midlife, their brain functioning declines sooner, and they live shorter lives than people who are not lonely. So, companionship. So again, we see this in our story with Mary and Joseph. The other thing that they found is that at age 50, it wasn't what your cholesterol level was or anything else. It was what were your relationships in life that would show whether you would live longer and healthier. Now, here's the deal with this, is relationships are messy, aren't they? I mean, really. I mean, it sounds great. Oh, yeah, we're going to have lots of friends. We're going to have community, and we're going to have this and that. But the truth is, relationships take a lot of work and a lot of forgiveness, right? And a lot of connecting. And sometimes you may feel like, I don't have any friends, or they don't call me. And what is it? Whatever we want in life, we need to give to life. So if you need a friend, you need to be a friend. So consider this part of the Christmas story of relationship, of Mary and Joseph, and who are your companions on this journey to awakening? Who are your companions? Who are your friends? And maybe there's someone that you need to reach out to that you've kind of let go of. I have been lucky in my life where I'm still friends with the girl that I babysat for who lived next door to me when she was a kid. And I'm still friends with, girlfriends from high school. But you know what? It isn't always easy. There's been periods in life where I've had to step back from these friendships and go, you know what? This isn't the healthiest thing for me to be involved in right now. But I will always, it seems, step back in after a year or two or whatever to reconnect. So relationships then become extremely important in our journey to awakening. We don't have to do it alone. Now, it doesn't mean we don't step back and meditate. It doesn't mean that we stay involved in relationships that aren't for our highest good, but we need to connect with them. Here's the other deal. In the study, it said that loneliness kills, and the truth is you can be lonely in a crowd, can't you? And you can be lonely in a marriage. And they found that conflict actually deteriorates the health or the well-being more than obviously being loved and supported. So this journey, I guess, is asking us to really be authentic with ourselves and our connections to one another. That companionship is important. So who's your companions? If you were going to Bethlehem, who would you journey with? Because remember, it's not an easy road. It's a difficult ride. Who are your companions, and who do you need to reach out to if people have sort of drifted away from you? All right, so the journey was 90 miles, up and downhill. Not the greatest thing to be doing when you're 9 months pregnant on a donkey. And so I would also propose to you that the journey to awakening, the journey to the city of peace, is not necessarily an easy road, that it is and can be sometimes difficult and maybe even treacherous. Scott Peck is one of my favorite authors. I know that I quote him often, but he said that life is difficult. And basically what we try to do is we try to avoid our problems. But he said really, it is through solving our problems and facing them that we gain wisdom and we gain courage. It's not that it's given to us, that's how we get it. And he said that many of us, probably all of us, who wants to suffer? Nobody, right? So it's like the idea is that since we don't necessarily sometimes want to face something that's in front of us, we'll create something else. So he calls it pseudo-problem. So you have a problem, you don't want to face your problem, so you create a pseudo-problem, and then you've got a problem on top of your problem, and you got to go fix that one. So an example is, you have a problem, you don't want to face it, so you turn and indulge an addiction, right? And then what? Okay, now I got to solve the addiction, now I also have to solve the problem. So he's saying, why not just face those directly? In fact, I'll just use his words. He said, this inclination to ignore problems is once again a simple manifestation of an unwillingness to delay gratification. Confronting problems is painful, and to willingly confront a problem early before we are forced to confront it by circumstances means to put aside something pleasant or less painful for something more painful. Aren't you glad you came today? Well. It is choosing to suffer now in the hopes of future gratification rather than choosing to continue present gratification in the hope that future suffering will not be necessary. So, he's calling us, Scott Peck is calling us, and I believe that the journey to Bethlehem, the journey to awakening, is also calling us. Because in order for us to learn from the experiences in life, it's calling us to be awake. And sometimes being awake to what we see is like, oh, I don't really want to see that. Right? So it's facing that which is in front of us in order to confront it. So how do we learn from experiences? So we've seen already that through reflection, through meditation, through companionship, through the willingness to face things that may be unpleasant. And forgiveness is a big piece, isn't it? You know, we've already talked about in order to have a relationship that lasts a long time, chances are you're going to have to forgive. I mean, ask anybody who's been married a long time, right? How many times have you had to forgive each other? Quite a number of times, right? And this is true even with big stuff that happens to us in life. There is a website that is called Letters for Peace. And in this is a project that is asking people who have suffered trauma to write, and it's not typing or emailing. They actually want you to get a nice piece of paper and a pen and actually handwrite these letters out and speak about how you got to peace. So again, the journey to Bethlehem is the journey to peace. So I want to share with you a couple of these letters. And they all start the same. They start as, Dear World. Dear World, there is no better day than today to take a pledge for peace. Peace binds us together more than violence ever will and serves as a more victorious and persuasive response to tragedy than vengeance and fear. I know this because when bombs went off at the marathon in Boston in 2013, my wife and I became one of the countless families who were rocked by shattering experiences of terror. The blast took my left leg below the knee and both of my wife's stunningly sculpted legs. In addition to the devastating toll it took on our psyches, our months-old marriage, our loving parents, our siblings and relatives, it threatened to take from Boston its standing as the original city on a hill. Instead, it made us recommit to unity and harmony with the eyes of the world upon us. When terrorists strike around the globe, the smallest and largest signs of peace send a message that peaceful and caring societies will always triumph over, and those who will always triumph over those who attempt to break us apart. Hate will always fall victim to love. My town, family, wife, and I choose peace. So you see that he is awake, is he not, to the situation that is in his life right now. And it didn't happen overnight. He did it with the companionship of his family. And there's a second letter, and it's on my phone, so I have to read it to you from my phone. So this is another one, and this is from a man named Cliff, and he said, "Dear world, Christmas was David's favorite holiday. His smile and infectious joy never failed to light up the room. But last Christmas holiday, David, my 16-year-old brother, tragically took his own life after enduring months of bullying, not from the kind of bullies who push you into lockers, but the kind that cower behind usernames and take profiles from miles away, constantly berating and abusing good and innocent people. This past year without him has been the most painstaking of my life. Fighting to breathe life into his legacy, to subdue the hate he and so many others have endured and to continue to endure, has gifted me strength and purpose. Only together can we be the beacon hope this world needs. Peace, Cliff." So these two men had great reason to go to sleep, didn't they? They had great reason to just sort of fall asleep to the whole situation, to everything that's happening in life. And yet, they kept their eyes open. And not only did they keep their eyes open, but they willingly embraced the situations that they were in. And rather than coming out bitter and angry, they came out peaceful. And this is our call, is it not? Is to awaken to the peaceful city. So each of these people are staying present to their challenges in order to not only gain wisdom, but to share that wisdom and insight with the world. This is our call as well. So you may be tempted to go back to sleep when things aren't going as you like. However, the world needs you to be awake right now. Your life needs you to be awake right now. Your family needs you to be awake right now, to stay on this journey, moving beyond the comfort zone. And you have companions on this journey. Just look around this room. This room is filled with companions who want to share this journey with you. In closing, I'm kind of leaning into Rumi today. This is one of my favorite poems. It's called The Guest House, and it speaks to life. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. So be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. We are here to learn. We are here to gain wisdom from life's experiences. So journey with me to the city of peace on this path to awakening. Merry Christmas.